This is David Smith, EbenConcepts.
Hey David, Reid, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, we talked about going for a drive around DC. You up for it?
Let's go.
All right. Sounds great, buddy. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Brokers are sharp and they have a lot to say. My favorite comedian has a great show that inspired me to capture broker insights in a fun way to share with you. This is Brokers in Cars Getting Coffee. Sometimes we have cars, most times we have coffee, but we always have great insights about the employee benefits industry.
Well, David, here we are in Washington, D.C. How many times have you come to Washington, D.C. for NAHU Capital Conference?
This would be my 17th. Washington's always been one of my favorite places in the world. I came here first time when I was 7 and just always liked Washington. One of the things I think we've undersold in terms of the value of membership is the fun. It's the fact that, a lot of us come here and, we're friends.
Yeah.
The joke I've had for years is that we drink together because we're the only people who understand why we need to drink.
And the law and legislation is key for you. You were an attorney first, right?
I was, yeah.
How did you go from attorney to healthcare guru?
Well, I think a lot of it came down to the fact that I wanted to figure out how to help people understand complex stuff, and I hated billing people by the 10th of an hour for that time.
I don't know if you really have drive-through Starbucks in DC.
Not in this
Not
part.
really, right?
Not this part.
I'm good
No.
without coffee.
Without coffee? You're not
We can imagine we had coffee. I
Yeah.
stopped drinking coffee when I was 7.
when you were 7. Yeah. Mean streets.
My preferred means of getting caffeine, a 20-ounce plastic bottle, Diet Pepsi, because it just tastes different than any other way I can drink it.
Where do you think the market's going in the next 5 years?
I think the biggest thing is that there's going to be lots of innovation trying to address very specific benefit needs. So I think one of the hottest topics in the next 5 years is going to be how we pay for and how we treat mental health and substance abuse issues. We're starting to see a big move on that across the board, where people are really focused on how do you best manage those costs, how do you make sure people are getting the care they need.
Do you think that this is a different need for behavioral health today than before, or are people just talking about behavioral health needs a little more than in the past?
I think part of it is that we are much more comfortable talking about mental health and substance abuse issues and not having the stigma that was on them for forever. And the recognition that it's no longer something wrong with the person, but it's a disease, and it's a disease that requires treatment.
How do you feel about the guy who's representing and keeping the bow tie industry in business?
I mean, it's a good look.
It is a good look. How many bow ties you got, man?
I've got like 50 at least.
What do you learn by teaching a class about benefits or the law or compliance?
I think the biggest is how people understand. If you're not paying attention to their reactions, what you realize is you're just talking to them.
So if we talk about the sales process and the discovery process during a sales discussion, it's really effectively the same thing.
Absolutely. And if you sit there and say the same thing to 8 people, then each of them are going to take something totally different about it, and you can only catch it from the nonverbal clues about which one they really want to do.
Okay, David, what are we looking at here?
So that's the Treasury Building, and on the far side of it is the White House. The famous story that was told about that was that because of the way that the Treasury Building is written, or built rather, you cannot see Congress from the White House.
What should I ask you about that you're noticing out around the country?
I think right now most agents are a little fearful of status quo.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to deal with it. Sometimes we get afraid of innovation. And, for me, I think about like what y'all do in terms of packaging a necessary set of services that people want, but they don't know how to piece it together.
Yeah.
That's the kind of innovation that changes not what agents sell, it changes what groups have wanted to buy, but they didn't know how to buy it properly. To me, 2 or 3 years from now, I'm envisioning that we would say to some of our clients, let's move that cost from the fixed fee side of the equation to the claims cost side of the equation. And let's go to our stop loss markets and say, hey, if we included this $20 PEPM and these expenses, well, then that's a good use of your claims dollars because you're actually reducing overall cost.
Right.
And then in people's minds, it stops being a fee and starts being a part of their healthcare cost. I think that's been another part of our success is you still got that local person. They're right there.
Healthcare is
Local.
still local. Community is local.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, with that,
Thank you, brother.
that sounds like a great close, David.
Yep. Have a great day, man.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks
Thanks,
for
sir, for
You're welcome.
Thank you for putting up with us.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it.